So happy to see you, Jinkx. Back on Broadway. You are just, look at these theater credits.
Well, I'm not complaining.
Why would you be? Why would you be? I saw Pirates the other day, and I know you're not complaining because my biggest takeaway from it was I remember thinking 5 minutes in, Jinkx loves this because you are part of a company, and it really feels like you're just part of like a band of theater players, like just having a blast. That's the energy I was getting, and I feel like that's just really what you love.
It is so incredible because when I was a kid dreaming of this is the kind of show I was dreaming of, right? And, Broadway is always changing and shifting, and we see a lot of new innovation these days, and the new innovation kind of results in some elements being kind of like pulled back while other elements are pushed forward, right? This production has everything that you've ever heard of in a Broadway show, all in one Broadway show. It's got incredible sets by David Rockwell. The choreography by Warren Carlyle is just, it's kind of like I watched people's faces in the audience kind of just like, as we keep going, they're like, really? They're gonna do more? And then Scott Ellis has been just the most incredible director. Joseph Gilbert, did I say that correctly?
Joseph Joubert.
Joubert. Yeah. I purposefully mumble it, so I... Joseph Joubert.
That's a real showbiz trick. Just mumble the name.
It's the Garland. It's Joseph Joubert. It's just been the most incredible creative team. And then the cast.
Yeah.
There's no weak link in our cast, in our crew. There's just every person I'm working with loves this.
Yeah.
And it's a not-for-profit theater, which means we all chose to be there because we wanted to put on this show, not because anyone's making a bucket of money, right? And that kind of levels the playing field in this way of like, let's all push our egos aside. Yeah, we are different people outside of this show, but when we're in this show, we're just a bunch of silly pirates.
It's so great because I've known that you want to do theater forever, and your Drag Race success led you to these kind of showcase moments, right? Mama Martin, Audrey was such an incredible breakthrough moment, but it was kind of like dropping in the star. And I feel like here you're able to be a part of a company from day one and really sort of, and there's so many ensemble elements to the show.
Well, don't get me wrong. I'll still take over roles. Okay? I've got a long list.
If you want to rattle any off,
still
go for it.
Well, I can't think of a role I wouldn't play in this current iteration of Cabaret, but it's a 1-2 punch these days. That show.
Yeah.
Everyone should see it. After you see Pirates. Anyway.
Pirates is limited. Yeah.
Pirates is limited. Cabaret can go and go and go. Like I said, cast me. Anyway, the point is...
Which role would you actually want to play in Cabaret?
I change my mind daily. Sometimes it's Fräulein Schneider. Sometimes it's Sally. Sometimes it's the MC.
Yeah.
I could do it all, baby.
Well, honestly, after seeing Pirates, I can picture you in all kinds of things.
Well, I've always wanted to be one of those chameleon actors, and I think it's kind of a blessing of being marginalized for so long. I've scooped up all these weird talents along the way, and you were talking about being there from day one. The generative process of this has been, in the best way I can possibly say, I feel like I'm in college again because my curriculum was so much about generating new work or taking work and putting it through a new lens by generating new ideas. That's what this process has been like. And so when I have dropped into roles, I sometimes will say, oh, you know what? I have this idea. And they go, oh my God, that's a brilliant idea. We can't do it. And I'm like, oh, right. this time I said, I have this idea. And Warren and Scott and Joseph would be like, okay,
wonderful.
Let's get this happening. And then not every idea made it to the stage, but they let me try everything. And then what we whittled away and what we have now is something I'm so proud of, because I'm part of the DNA of my character. That's like what you want to be when you originate something, you know?
What's it like dropping into a new company and getting to know your cast and endearing yourself to them and them endearing themselves to you? It feels like that's definitely happened with this group of performers.
It was just so easy.
Yeah.
From day one, from the first workshop I participated in to every gala event I've done. Just honestly, the round about, I almost said round table because my mom keeps calling it round table theater.
Instead of roundabout, the round table theater.
The round
I love
table
that. It's a
theater.
rebranding.
My mom's always so close. Anyway.
Pirates of the Round Table Theater.
The Roundabout Theater, it's just they've compiled the best of the best people, and the entire cast is just so lovely. And if I may say candidly, not that this is important, it's just very refreshing. I believe that the LGBTQAI plus company members outnumber the non.
Love to see it.
And that has no bearing in anything other than it is such a diverse space, because we're not only practicing diversity of backgrounds, but we're practicing diversity of lived experiences. And no two people in this show look alike, really, you know? And they don't have similar backgrounds. And so it's so lovely to be doing a show that's about people coming together and appreciating one another's differences. At least our iteration is, and then the cast is actually a wonderful example of that. It's not just saying something; it's actually showing you what it looks like, and it's been so beautiful because I don't want to leave this cast. You know, like this is. Immediately felt like somewhere I could live for a while.
I assume, from what I know of your childhood, I feel like you were more drawn to Rent, Spring Awakening, Hedwig than Gilbert and Sullivan, or am I wrong about that?
Wrong.
Yeah?
You're completely wrong. Actually, Hedwig was kind of the only rock musical that really resonated with me. I had to fall in love with Spring Awakening.
Okay.
When I did it in Seattle, the director said, you need to look at this role. I know it's not like what you would normally look at, and it was Moritz, and it was a life-changing experience. So I'm glad I did it. And I did Rent, and I fell in love with Rent, but I've always loved, not all of the classics, but I've always loved the stories that stand the test of time. You know, there was this golden age in the 70s and 80s, Kander and Ebb and Sondheim, and those are a lot of my favorite musicals are by them. And then Gilbert and Sullivan is this wonderful thing that I've always been completely cognizant of and have known so many references to, but never like kind of had my way in until now.
Yeah.
And I love Gilbert and Sullivan music, but I really love performing Gilbert and Sullivan music with this Louisiana Creole jazz style, because I don't know that I would have been the right fit for Ruth if she, you know, I can do it. A paradox, but no one wants to watch Mrs. Doubtfire, you know, play Ruth. I'm teasing. Probably plenty of people want to watch that. But I really love that I get to play this kind of earthy, grounded Ruth while doing this classically significant operetta, you know?
I hope there's a cast album. I need the cast album.
I have no power, but I'm casting spells for a cast album, because just so that it's exists somewhere so we can look back on it, because the music is really divine. Rupert Holmes not only wrote the book for this, but revamped all the music and rearranged all the music, and took songs from other Gilbert and Sullivan shows and put them in this, which is a pretty trendy thing to do. And you know, like revinyl.
You got one of those extra songs.
I got one of those.
Yeah, we like that.
And then he fine-tuned it for me, and it's like, again, this is everything I've ever dreamed of doing in one show.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to think of like what to do next, because this like had it all, right? If I do a one-person show with no set, no props, and no costumes, I'm gonna be miserable after this. So, like I said, Cabaret, at least they have costumes and other actors.
There's a
right?
lot. There's a lot going on over there.
There might not be a lot of set, but it literally everything else, and that's what I'm talking about. Like a lot of shows have almost everything, but they're missing one thing because, you know, lots of reasons. This show just happens to have everything.
And it even has a washboard choreography. Oh my God, this washboard number.
Ramin
What was that like to
plays
learn?
a banjo. When you think nothing left could be, oops. The washboard choreography was incredible.
Yeah.
We all had to learn how to play a washboard with thimbles on our fingers and a bike bell. And now we go out, okay, and this was one of the most frustrating parts. We started this on like day one because it was gonna, and then it would change every other day. So it would be like, okay, we're changing the 8 and a 1 to a digga digga, you know, like, and then in the end, what we have is the most concise, tight little package of everything we've been doing for a month and a half, and it's just the cleanest, best moments. That's what happens when you get to generate from day one, when you get the whole cast into the room, and everyone is working, and it's like, you know, who knows? Like, I mean, I think all the time about Ryo Kamibayashi, who plays piano. It's a stump piano in the show, but he knows the notes. He's playing the song he's supposed to be playing, even though the piano doesn't work. And then there was this one day where he was helping me up onto my spot on the piano, and my skirt was hanging down onto the keys, and he moved my skirt so he could keep. I mean, that's how pro these people are. I mean, everyone has a million skills. Preston, Truman, Boyd, trumpet, tap dancing, stage combat. I told him if he wasn't so straight and married, he could have this in a heartbeat. You know, like a trumpet and tap dancing. That's all I need.
He also, I was thinking about this, he also has played Javert. And you have a great Jean Valjean in the cast, Ramin Karimloo, and I want to. Is there like confrontation happening backstage?
That was the first day of stage combat. It was day one of stage combat. That you put swords in their hands and they went. And I was over here, Monsieur, don't mock me now, I pray. You know, and it's just been a party.
Yeah.
I hate the idea of rehearsals ending because, you know, now we're only going to have the show.
Right.
And we're going to do so much stuff. We're already talking about ways we're going to hang out and stuff now. We have free time, but like I've made a huge group of new friends. And you know I work annually on the Jinkx and Dela holiday show. And you know what a familial thing that is, and how, you know, we've created something that we're really protective of. So the people in that group, you know, we're pretty tight-knit. And I didn't think I could find something so similar and it would click in like that so quickly. But that's what happens when you give people the space. You know, when you get everyone together and say, okay, let's push our egos aside and put on a really good show. And that's what we're doing.
And you can tell, and it's working. It's fabulous. I do want to ask you a little bit about Ruth, because I love her. She's a survivor, right? She's definitely lived a life. She's definitely looking for love. what I love about her is that she's hard of hearing, as am I, and I felt so seen. You get some great comedy out of that as well. What's it been like living her, experiencing her, and making Ruth maybe your own? You've sort of made your own version of Ruth.
Well, I think of the idea of being hard of hearing. I don't know. You can tell me if I'm close, but like, I think that she finds it easier to hear people if she's looking directly at them.
Well, yeah, you got to
so
read
whoever's
the lips. Lips are very helpful.
talking, that's all she's looking at, and that's very helpful as someone with ADHD tendencies to be like, I have one rule: look at who's talking.
That's a good thing. Yeah, that was.
Pirate keeps talking. Frederick's talking,
smart.
and it just keeps me present and in the moment and not distracted, which is a helpful thing about Ruth. And then I oftentimes infuse people from my life into my characters. There's a lot of my grandmother in Mama Morton, and there's some of my grandma in Ruth for sure, because she was my caretaker, and so I learned a lot of that like maternal stuff from my grandma. Yeah. But I also had my my aunt Melissa, who I call Mimi. She's been such a huge part of my life. I call her like my spiritual guide in life. She was one of my 3 mothers raising me. And I put so much of her into Ruth because she is just point blank, I care about people. Like that is her raison d'être. And she's in Ruth. I gave Ruth her birthday. Ruth is a Pisces. My aunt is blind. Ruth is hard of hearing, I kind of just infused the life that my aunt has had as someone with the hugest heart and limited capabilities, right? And that's it, and then the rest is just letting the text and the music do the work.
It's been stunning to watch. It feels like so far from who you are now in terms of like your career and what you've been able to pull off and what we used to think of the career opportunities, right, from something like Drag Race. But a couple of weeks ago, a contestant, Susie Toots, was eliminated, and they said, "See you on Broadway." RuPaul said, "See you on Broadway." That statement never would have been made if it hadn't been for what you've been able to.
Well, I mean, that's true for me, and it's true for other drag queens before me, other drag queens from Drag Race, but I always like mentioning that Varla Jean Merman was a drag queen on Broadway before me. Peppermint was a trans woman on Broadway before me. Laverne Cox, Angelica Ross, Alexandra Billings. Yeah. All these people, Charles Bush, Coco Peru, all these people have paved a way for me to do what I'm doing now. So I didn't do it on my own. But what I love is being adamant that drag queens, we do it in drag, right? Or we do it dressed this way or with this wig on, but like Orville Peck wears a mask, right? Yeah. Kathy Griffin does her job. What is the difference between Kathy Griffin and Bianca Del Rio? Please, someone tell me. Like they're the same height too. Anyway, so I've been saying this for so long. Yeah, we do it in drag, but we don't do it any less than anyone else. Yeah. We found a way to communicate to our audience. Drag is our medium, not necessarily our talent, Our talents are our talents, and drag is the way we communicate it. And, I'm not doing drag when I'm on Broadway, and I'm not necessarily doing drag when I'm on Broadway. I'm just playing a role like anyone else in the show. Right. I mean, like, everyone else is wearing a wig. Everyone else is wearing a full face of makeup. Right. David Hyde Pierce is in drag. He just happens to be, stay in the same gender presentation. But it's all drag. All theater has always been drag. So there's no reason to make a subcategory of us. We're just entertainers in drag.
I'm just glad you got here, and I love
Me
watching.
too! My God! I mean, when I think about how much time in my life I've spent thinking about this and working towards this and talking about this, I'm like, every time someone says, I'm so proud of you for getting here, I'm like, me too, because this would have been a huge waste of time. Like a gigantic waste of time. The sacrifices, the things I have endured. If this were all for naught, I don't know. I don't know how I'd keep going.
I can't help but the first time I ever met you, you told me one of your dream roles was Mame, and looking at you today.
Well, I'm trying to manifest a new iteration of Mame because I think it would be really interesting to see, a kid being raised by a non-traditional household and then that being the good thing.
Yes.
Oi.
I like it.
Thank you.
Mame.
I like it too.
So we'll do Mame. Cabaret Mame.
We just got to find the perfect Vera, right? Because I'm obviously. Anyway.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Go see Pirates. It's so good.